Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mr. Pick Me and the Manhater podcast. I am the Manhater.
And I'm Mr. Pick Me,
Of course, I do not hate men.
and I don't want to be picked. Or I've
Yes,
already been picked.
you want to be
Which one is
picked.
it? I guess I.
I think it would be not wholly truthful to say you don't want to be picked, but you have been picked already.
Right. We talked about on a previous show that I was not picked for teams before. So this is the team I can be picked for.
We've picked you for
I
sure.
was picked on.
Just joking. Oh boy.
Oh, that's a real positive way to start the show.
Welcome to therapy with Reagan
Hey.
and Chesko. Oh shit.
Oh,
So I think if anything, I might need therapy after this episode. What are we talking about today?
well, today is about 5 things that men shouldn't have to do when dating, married, or in a relationship. Theme song.
You want bad advice, man? I'll give it out gladly. I got some good advice for you. No, you don't. Like, no, you don't. I got some good advice for you. No, you don't. Like, no, you don't. Shit.
5 things men should not have to do when
Mhm.
they're married,
Dating, married,
dating.
or in a relationship.
That's a weird order of that.
I know
But
it's
okay, so it's interesting that dating's on there too.
yeah. Yeah, no, this is
Low bar.
a fascinating video. I never responded to it just because it gave me a lot of feelings and I was like this needs a podcast to respond to everything in this.
I've had that too, where I'm like, I have too much to say and I have too much rage. That's not going to
Yeah.
play well.
Number 1, wash his own clothes. If you're at your man's house and you see that clothes need to be washed, take the initiative and wash them.
Ooh, coming out swinging with the misogyny.
Dating, married, or in a relationship. So even if
Dating?
you're just dating.
If I'm dating someone and I'm at their house and I see that they have laundry, that's so weird. If that happened at my house, if somebody was like, well, not now, but
Yeah.
back in the day,
Yeah.
if someone just started doing my laundry, I'd be like,
Mhm.
what the hell
What
is
is
going on?
happening?
Why are you doing
Yeah.
this?
Also, like, don't do my laundry.
Please.
Please don't
That's
do
personal.
that. I don't like, I'm a pretty well clean guy. I kind of have a weird thing about that where but that's even more so. I'm like, that's outdoor clothes. Those have outdoor on them. There was filth on those. We know our episode last week. It's not that. I wasn't worried about I don't want to revisit that. I don't want to revisit last week's episode. But
No,
even in
please.
general, though, that just seems, I don't know. Like I will admit, in my household,
Uh-huh.
that is when we split up the chores, my wife is the laundry person. I'm the dishes, garbage, cooking person. So we kind of figured out what is the
What our
equal
strengths are.
distribution of labor. Well, it's
Yeah.
just I'm it was more so she didn't trust me washing her clothing.
My wife is the same way.
Mine was with no reason. I've lived on my own before we got married. I've lived on my
Yeah.
own for a decade and never ruined anything. But I get it. Maybe,
Well,
yeah.
I'm trying to think. I think I've probably have messed up before, but the main thing that happened was she had an ex
Mhm.
who destroyed like all her favorite stuff. I can't remember if I think it shrank, but
Mhm.
like something like all her favorite stuff. Or
Mhm.
like maybe put like a red sock in something weird. And so
Mhm.
now we have this elaborate system of like everything has to hang dry and then it goes in the dry, like it's this whole thing.
Mhm.
Now I do laundry. We both do laundry. She definitely does it more, but there was a
Right.
time there that she was traumatized by a bad laundry experience.
Yeah.
So
And so and she hates the food, like old food and like
oh,
the
I hate that.
dish. And so
Ugh.
yeah. And I'm for some reason I'm okay with it. And so like that just became I was all right, sweet. That
Yeah.
will work out where I do, especially and at first it was those two were fairly uneven
Yeah.
because laundry takes so much more time and it was just the two of us. But now that we have three kids, it's definitely shifted. But she has more clothing too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's they've grown together in that way.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always constantly playing catch up. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna cook us. I make us breakfast every day. I'm gonna make the kids lunches. I'm gonna also cook most of our meals. I'm gonna do this, that, and the other thing because laundry takes up so much
It's a
time.
nightmare. And then there's so many times you go to do laundry and one part of the process is messed up. Like you
Mhm,
don't have enough hangers because it's already hanging, or there's stuff in the washer, there's stuff in the dryer,
mhm,
and you're like, oh my God.
mhm.
Yeah. But I definitely think asking a woman you're dating to do
No,
your
that's
laundry is
back to what we're
insane.
talking about. That is wild.
Like on what,
Yeah.
like the entitlement and the sexism, like, I mean, I guess way to get it out there early. Just to say, hey, I'm a misogynist.
This is what you're getting into.
Oh, I'm just
Oh
sorry. I just
man.
got a flash of like you go to a guy's house. Oh, you're gonna have dinner, whatever, and he just is like,
Mhm.
and
This
points
is
to a
have you noticed?
some dirty laundry.
Mhm.
Oh my God. No. No,
And
no.
now, well, here we do have to bring up last week now. What if that's what's waiting for you too? If
Bye. Boy, bye. See you later. See you never.
oh man, if you're gonna see skitties and then have to
No. No,
that was a
that's like fear
cute way to
factor.
talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah, if
that's
you're gonna
like
see that,
fear.
but it would be a
Ugh.
good way to maybe you're like, no, I'll do it one time and then you just ghost, you disappear
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that is you've learned.
I would disappear into the night for sure. I would be
Yeah.
like, Mom, who's calling? I hear
What is
someone," and then
oh
run.
man.
All right, go to the next one.
Okay.
I
Okay.
cannot. I know it's only going to get worse.
Number two, clean his house. Regardless of the fact if you live with him or not, you should still clean his house. It's just something about a woman's touch that hits different when your house is being cleaned by a woman.
Okay. Okay. Um, so you want a woman who also has to clean her own house and has to pay for
Hmm.
her own house. She's coming
Hmm.
to a house that she does not, she has no stake in. It's not her own home. You want her to do that for you.
Yeah, I think this guy read an ad for a maid service and was like, that's my, it must be, but he thought it's a dating service.
My God, this is
Oh, this
amazing.
is everything I've ever wanted. I can do
I can be
nothing. And that's,
disgusting.
yeah, look at all that I have to offer in this relationship of my presence.
Like, it's so
Oh,
bizarre. Because again, like, it's not that he doesn't understand. Like, any person on this planet understands that that is a task that
hmm,
people are paid for.
hmm,
If you were to have someone, like, that's a cleaning service. And it, again, I say this all the time, it's never reciprocal. I don't,
hmm.
there's like no guy that came to my house and was like, let me just clean. Let me
Oh,
just
look at
clean your
this.
house for
Oh
you.
man. Hmm.
They would dirty it
Right.
100%. Ugh. I what year? First of all, this guy is single would be my guess.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We can keep going. I'm furious,
Well,
but
but I think it's there's just some um it goes back to the whole that not just maid service but like mommy service, right? This is the whole like I shouldn't have to do these things. I want to
I would go pay with the
go
boys.
hard.
Do you know what drives me nuts too? The
Yeah.
woman's touch thing.
Hmm.
Because it's like, guess
Hmm.
what? It's forced. It's
Hmm.
practiced. It's not inherent in women. Like a woman's touch usually means like clean,
Right.
organized, perhaps there's some decoration.
Hmm.
It's made to look nicer. Like all of those things men can do. Women,
Hmm.
you don't come out of the womb being like, I know the color palette.
Hmm.
I've got it. It's so, I think it's bizarre, but it's the same thing as like every woman's born to be a mother. It's like,
Hmm.
no, it's learned. You are
Hmm.
giving yourself an excuse to not be accountable. You're giving yourself an excuse to not like,
I'm just so bad at these things. For some
right.
reason, like when you clean, there's not still a layer of filth on the ground. I don't get it.
You use this spray, I think? Did you
Those
use
what
something?
is
What
how
is
is it?
that?
Let me see your hands. Look, how did you do that?
This is magic.
They're so soft that you're able to you're more gentle and you're able to pick things so you can detect where where the things are through touch. It's so dumb.
It's so dumb. And like, I always was kind of amazed by that. Now, don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
I am not particularly a skilled like interior designer. You know, I don't have that. I have like what I think looks cool. You know, like
Hmm.
I don't have like my mom, for example, is really good at design and like
Hmm.
colors and again, this was learned. She grew up not having anything, you know.
Hmm.
And so once she was able to really provide for the family and like make things look nice, she learned, she studied,
Hmm.
right? But she's really good at it now. I don't I don't have that. But was always amazed like with guys I dated, like when they had their own home,
Hmm.
how little they did to keep
Hmm.
it clean, firstly, but also to like make it feel good.
Hmm.
Like you know what you like. You know a fluffy blanket on a couch is gonna feel good on your body. You
Hmm.
know, certain like you know what colors look nice. It would just be like this sterile, sticky, like sterile
Hmm.
as in no color, not as in clean, but
Hmm.
like sticky at like no decoration, really weird stuff. And I'm like, that can't feel good.
Hmm.
You could do something here. Like what do
Hmm.
you like? Like what makes you happy? Uh and the expectation that women just have that inherently and then that they should be forced to do that for men, like I believe in you. You can do it for yourself. Like like oh.
I would always, because I had roommates always too.
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna lie, my room was not the best, but I always kept all of our shared places immaculate. Like
Sure,
I
sure, sure,
never
sure.
let that, I always made sure that if it was going to be something that was just like my little hovel, it was
Mhm.
only in a place that nobody but me ever went to. And then honestly, and I was not proud of it. I was ashamed of of how sloppy I was, because
Sure, sure.
that was something where, and then when I started dating, I was like, I should probably not live like this.
Right.
But I didn't expect her to come over and do it for me. I didn't start dating because I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know what to do. What? No, I
Yeah,
was
I
just,
just need a cleaner. Come on
yeah.
over. It doesn't matter who. Yeah, it's just a weird idea of like you because it's you know, if you're a messy person and you don't mind being messy, like that's
Hmm.
fine. Like live
Right.
and that's how you want to live, that's fine. But it's like these men who complain about that seem like they want a clean house. They
Hmm.
want these things. So it's like then do it. The idea that it should be the woman's responsibility. And I think the thing that irks me that just all of this makes me mad but something that gets under my skin a little bit, besides everything, um, is this idea that it's almost framed as a positive. Like,
Hmm.
oh, it's just a woman's touch. You just have that
Hmm.
special something. It's like, you want me to do work for you. You want
Hmm.
me to clean your dirty undies. You want me to clean your filthy house. Like, and you're framing it as like, you've just got that special something. You know, I'm like, ugh, give me a break. Stop it.
Yeah.
Pass. All right. What else? What else? I feel like by the end of this, I'm gonna punch my
Right.
computer.
I was like, oh God. Megan, you got to get these anger issues. There's other emotions other than anger.
Thank
All
you.
right.
I was just about to go get in my car and scream. So take it
And
from
then
the men.
text it to me. Look at
Don't be
this
surprised.
natural moment that I had alone in my car that just happened. Oh, my phone just accidentally lodged itself up against the
That's
thing
my
and recorded me.
favorite. And then it got edited mysteriously, and then there's music underneath
What?
it.
Oh man,
Uh,
that music was on my radio. It
oh,
just
it must be
happened.
yeah.
It's what
Except
that's what made this.
and I'm gonna look dead into camera a couple times, but it just it's an accident. I don't know. Ugh, ugh, Chesko, just keep going. Just keep
Number 3.
going. Oh God.
We should come home to a home cooked meal every night. If you don't live in the same household, take them a plate.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No.
It's the second part is the part that blew my mind.
Take them a plate.
You should be, if you are dating someone, you should be cooking them food and making sure that when they get home to their own apartment or house, wherever they live, they should have a plate ready for them that you cooked for them.
First of all, this is shocking to me that this is number three based on number one and two. Like,
Right.
what? Also, women should cook? God, that's the first
Huh?
time I've
Yeah.
heard that.
There is a theme here, right?
There's a theme. It's called misogyny,
Mhm.
1950s.
Mhm.
But here's the thing. Like, I love. I'm not. I'm going to be totally transparently honest. I'm not a
Mhm.
great cook. Okay,
Mhm.
I don't have like I have a friend who she was like raised around cooking too. She just can throw stuff in and she knows it's going to taste good. Like just all these different flavors, right?
Hmm.
I couldn't just like look at spices and be like these. Like let me just
Right.
she can do all kinds she can cook all different like types of foods. It's crazy. I don't have that, but I do love cooking. And I do love, like, I try to have, unless something's gone on that day that made that not possible, like, I try and have a home cooked meal for my wife when she gets home. Like,
Hmm.
so there's nothing against cooking. A lot of people show love through food, like culturally
Hmm.
even.
Hmm.
And I love that for them.
Hmm.
But we're not really talking about that.
No.
I think again, like this is where they kind of get you tripped up because you're like, oh, of course, like I love to make food or like I love to share with my person I'm dating. Like all of those are nice things, right? The
Hmm.
expectation is the expectation of
Hmm.
like you cooking your own meal, and especially in this economy where everything costs your an arm and a leg, like that you
Right.
would make enough food each time for at least two people that you would then eat your food, get in the car, drive
Hmm.
to your person you're dating's house, and just be like, here's a plate of food, which again is a job, is literally a job. That's a
Yeah.
thing. You can order plates, right? That is insane.
Yeah.
Order, like, just hire a maid at this point. Hire a maid and hire a cooking service because it's not the girl you're dating. That's not dating.
I should be clear. I double checked. This is not like a parody video. This is this guy's platform. This is genuinely meant to be like this is what you should be looking for.
You know what though? It's like no shit. Like
Yeah.
everybody would love that. Like I'm about to break through the screen.
So
It's
it
like
wasn't me. I know it's coming to me. I'm saying it, but it's not
just
me.
go, what? You've turned on me. No. No, I just get really, here's what I get upset for women. Like
Hmm.
this upsets me as someone who, my friends could potentially
Hmm.
date this type of person, right? And there are women who maybe don't realize how disgusting this is to expect of them, right?
Hmm.
Because that in our society, that was a thing. Again, like culturally, different things. Everybody would love, like all of us, like it would be so nice to have a
Right.
nice home, that you didn't have to clean. It would be so nice that the laundry magically gets done. Do you ever see that
Hmm.
sketch where the husband takes the wife and he's like, no, 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 this coffee table is magic. And he's like, I'm gonna put this on here, and you wait, it's gonna be gone. He's like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
our laundry basket is magic, and then it's because she's doing all the things he's no idea
Right.
of it. Which again is like, ha ha ha. It's funny, but also like you're aware
Yeah.
of it. If men are making jokes
Hmm.
about it, they know it's happening. Um,
Hmm.
I did think it was funny, but again, I'm always like, but you know it's real, huh?
Right.
But it's like all of us would love that. It's
Hmm.
great. A home cooked meal, love it. A home cooked meal delivered to your door by someone you're dating, that's awesome. What a joy. But it's expecting that and not reciprocating that.
Hmm.
That's gross.
Hmm.
That's like
And it's
no.
also, I feel like a lot of the people, I'm not going to say all, but most of the people I feel like pushing this notion of basically this trad wife-ish
Free labor.
kind of idea,
Like,
yeah, is are like also like younger, often single men that are like
huh,
have romanticized this version of
mommies.
what they want. Yeah, of to where and then they get all these other men in the comments like, yeah, that does sound great
That's
because
what
of
I'm
what you
saying.
just
Of
said.
course.
Yeah, of course that's it. And so they're like, yeah, this must be a great idea because I have thousands of men telling me it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the pearls of the world that will then also reinforce it and say like, oh no, that is a great idea. This is the purpose of woman is to serve men.
As she's very single, as she's
Hmm.
aggressively single. Hmm.
But you add on to it, and most of these cases also, it's not even like the guys are making a ton of money and like
No.
providing a lavish
No, you
lifestyle.
can't even pay for the,
Yeah,
like that's
it's
what I've said. It's like I'm not obviously like a traditional roles kind of gal. That should
Mhm,
be obvious at that point, this point, but um it's like these men can't even provide the thing that they say they want. Like
mhm,
they I mean nobody can. It's so rare right now for people to be able to
mhm,
like one income houses. Like it's so rare. So it's like you want a trad wife, yet you can't support it. Like
mhm,
excuse me, what's going on here? But I also think, as has been my theory for a long time, is men are unable to get women. Like, a lot of men are really struggling to find
Hmm.
women because, in my opinion, the bar has been raised, right? But the men who are struggling, they're coming up with this idea, or I guess going back to an idea, right, of the from whatever 1950s and below back,
Right.
of what being a woman is and what a good partner who is a woman is. And it's things that like no woman's gonna do. And
Hmm.
so they're setting up a bar that's like no woman's gonna go for, and then they can say, well, up, see, these women aren't good enough for me. These are
Hmm.
bad women. These women
Hmm.
are not even, I wouldn't even want one of those. And it's like,
Hmm.
it seems like we're coming up with things and bars that can't be met so that we can say to ourselves, well, I chose not to go for that.
Hmm.
I don't want that. Um, and it's like, okay, but you're going to be alone. Like, if that's what you're
Right.
looking for, that's not going to happen.
Right.
So,
They'll complain like, why are there so many more single men nowadays? Why are there so many
right.
men less getting married? Why is it? And it's, oh, it's because women are terrible, as opposed to this is why what you women are going to end up alone if you don't do.
Right.
Yeah.
By choice. Correct. I
Yeah.
do love that when they're like, see, you're alone and miserable. It's like there's literally not a single study that backs the miserable part, buddy. Sorry. Men die quicker when they're not
Yeah.
paired up. So,
Hmm.
statistically speaking, traditional marriage is all about like free labor and how it's
Hmm.
conditioning women to believe that those aspects are inherent kind of in their womanhood,
Hmm.
the cooking and the cleaning, that this is something that they need to do, and it's all this weird way of getting that free labor from them by convincing them they want it, and that's what they should even like morally be doing, and they want that to be not because they're taking advantage of someone predicated on a system and predicated on misogyny and all these other
Hmm.
things. They want to convince women, no, 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 this is just what good wives are. You
Hmm.
should do this. Or even when religion gets involved, then it gets really iffy because then it's like
Hmm.
God kind of wants you to do this.
Right.
Ugh. Okay, let's keep
Yeah.
going.
All right. This one is less funny and more, you might actually jump through the screen for this one.
Oh, okay, I'll
Uh
brace myself.
yeah, this one's
Is it
about,
sex related?
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I was, so warning for anybody.
Trigger
Because this
warning.
this this actually does, I think, allude to a lot of really toxic and traumatic experiences that I
Okay.
think many will have to go through. But men shouldn't have to ask for love, intimacy, and affection. When we leave to go to work in the morning every day, our sack should be empty.
Mm. You know what? He can take care of that on his own if that's what he
Yeah.
wants. Um, but a lady should not be involved in that. You know what's
Hmm.
interesting? It reminds me of, do you remember those really bad vows we did? Like we talked about the
Oh yeah,
bad vows.
yeah,
He's like, I
yeah.
want my belly to be full and my balls to be empty. It's
Right.
just like, ew,
Hmm.
ew, like just so disgusting, so degrading. Again, like, Chesko, you're correct. You're correct. I'm trying to rein in the rage and get something tangible out besides yelling. It's this idea like that in marriage, and I mean historically this was believed, right?
Hmm.
Um you own, we're talking about this, free labor. It's like owning someone. You own a woman's body as soon as you marry her.
Hmm.
That is what that means. That is what a man is saying when he's talking about those
Hmm.
things. He's not talking about pleasing him. He's not talking about intimacy. That's bullshit. What he's saying is, I own your body and I should have access to it whenever I want.
Hmm.
And if you're saying you should have access to another human being's body, whether or not they want to or not,
Hmm.
whether or not they're consenting, we know what that means. And that, I don't care
Hmm.
how long you've been married. I don't care. I don't care. That's what that is. That's assault.
Hmm.
Period. Point blank.
100%.
SA.
And that's the three things he brought up before this all led up to the idea, though,
Right.
that this is
Groundwork.
your entire purpose. Like I said, this is wild to say even for marriage. But for him
Oh,
to
this is
allude,
dating too.
this is
Ugh.
dating
Oh
too,
my
that
God.
if you want to date a man, you give up complete ownership of your life, right? Of your body.
Literally.
You
Of your
literally,
food.
it's of your food. It is now your goal. You gain another I can't even say child because of number 4, but you gain this dependent uh that you now need to literally clean, feed, and please, I guess, regardless, like I said, regardless of if you are also working, regardless if you have to clean your own house, regardless if you have to do your own dishes, regardless if you have to feed yourself, regardless if you're just not in the mood, right? Regardless of if
Right.
you're going through something really traumatic, or you're depressed, or you are dealing with some hard something at
Or you're a
work,
person. Yeah.
or you're just like that's what I'm alluding to, any number of things
Mm.
where you just might not be able to. Nothing ever gives you the right to say that you should never ever be able to deny intimacy, quote unquote intimacy.
Which it's
uh
not, right?
but to your partner, right? You always 100% of your life should always maintain the right to decide what is best for your body, and that is the only acceptable answer, regardless. I don't care what people will bring in, like you mentioned, like in religion, where you mentioned in
Oh, yeah,
culturally things.
right, which they do.
I will never ever be like, well, okay, for yours. No, it's
No,
wrong. Even when people think it's okay, it's still wrong.
I don't think this gets talked about enough. Having sexual desires and like the need to have some type of release, which, okay,
Hmm.
I don't even like talking about, like, I'll do
Right.
it for the pod, okay? I will do it for the pod, right? Like is not a direct correlation to having sex with your partner,
Hmm.
because guess what, you having a sexual desire, that is completely natural, a human thing, like, of course. And even
Hmm.
say you have a higher libido than your partner,
Hmm.
which, by the way, statistically speaking, that men do not have higher libidos than women. That has been proven
Hmm.
time and time again. If anything, women actually um, tend to have higher libidos, especially as they get older. And additionally,
Hmm.
women get more bored than men do
Hmm.
with repetition. Just some facts for you. Okay, but regardless of all of that, if you have whatever, your libido's higher, or you want to have some type of release, like, go ahead and do that. There's
Hmm.
plenty of things you can do on your own that don't include cheating, right?
Hmm.
Because that's not what I'm talking about. You
Right.
can do that. You can't force your partner to do something they don't want to do. I
Hmm.
feel like there's so many toxic men and so much like toxic ideology that has
Hmm.
convinced women, like, that's the only way for that guy. Like, if you don't have sex with him, you're preventing him from this. I'm going to say the term they love,
Hmm.
biological. This
Hmm.
biological need they have. It's like, no, he can go take care of that himself in the
Right.
bathroom if he's so pent up. Like, there's absolutely
Hmm.
ways he can do that that don't involve forcing his wife to do something she doesn't want to.
Hmm. And also, if it gets to the point where like that is becoming a huge issue that you can't
Hmm.
overcome and you can't deal with, then like people act like like also splitting up or divorcing or whatever is like
Hmm.
the worst thing. I'm not saying that's the only reason why that should happen. There's
Right.
probably other things going on that
Right.
has led to that.
Sure.
But if it becomes a deal breaker, the solution is not to force them to do
Right.
something that
Right.
they don't want to do.
Right.
It's to find another solution. And if
A
that ends
hundred
up being
percent.
moving on to a partner that does have the same, not necessarily, needs is such a gross word, I think, or the same wants, I guess, would be that you do, or I don't even know the yeah, that has the same
Desires, maybe.
viewpoint on that, I guess, desires, whatever we
Whatever.
want to say. You know
Right.
what I'm saying. I
I
just don't want
do.
to be taken out of context. And but
By me?
if it
I
yeah,
just edit
no,
this
no,
really
but
grossly.
you may notice this, the internet is terrible,
I
right?
have noticed. I've noticed every day.
But if you are with somebody, they act like the only solution has to be one of you giving in and doing something that you simply that will harm you.
Yeah.
And that's simply not the case. There are other solutions, and
Right.
while it might be terrible, while that might not feel like a solution, if the only alternative is that,
Forcing someone. Yeah.
forcing someone to do something, especially like sexually, or
Ugh.
then
You should
then it's
split.
over. You should split up. That's not going to work out.
If in your mind
Hmm.
the only
Hmm.
it's either split or force someone to do something,
Hmm.
then you should
Split.
split.
That
The
is the
guy
answer.
should split. But
Hmm.
it's also this idea of like, it could be 100% she's just not wanting to. Maybe you're not matching up in how often you want to.
Hmm.
Okay, that's completely valid. But there is also an idea of like, what are you doing to make her want
Hmm.
to have sex with you? What are
Hmm.
you doing to make her feel loved and cherished? Like, what are you doing?
Hmm.
And I don't mean like literally to get sex. Like that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm not saying
No, no.
like give her flowers to get sex, right? But like what are you giving to the relationship? Because people like everybody has like wants and desires and things that
Hmm.
spark wants and
Hmm.
desires. So what are you doing to be desirable? Are
Hmm.
you giving her space? Like if she's per the other freaking rules here, like if she's
Hmm.
cleaning your entire house and her house, if she's
Hmm.
if she's doing all the laundry, if she's, doing all the cooking, like do you think maybe she wouldn't be in the mood?
Hmm.
Because there are so many women, and again, never ever ever do force anyone to do anything, and you shouldn't do
Hmm.
things just to get sex from someone, obviously.
Right.
But I mean, I know women who have been in bad relationships who are very sexual, but like
Hmm.
they literally would be so drained. Or like the
Hmm.
childcare, that's another big one,
Hmm.
right? It's like I just had a baby all day. Like I've been thrown
Hmm.
up on, I've been doing all this stuff. I'm exhausted. I don't get a second to myself. And the only time you touch me is when you want to have sex with me.
Hmm.
No, no, I don't think so. Like that's the other disconnect. It's like, what's the reasoning? And maybe it is she just doesn't want to, and that's completely valid in itself. But like, are you even having a conversation with her about her wants and desires? Because all we
Hmm.
hear about is the man's not getting what he wants. Do you think
Right.
she's fulfilled?
Right.
I don't know, but you should ask. You should
Hmm.
ask. You should be asking these questions. It should never be, well, I want it and you don't, so I'm gonna force it.
Right.
No. Or I'm
And
gonna guilt
like you
you.
said, there are many reasons, valid reasons why that might,
Of
why there
course.
might be something, but it is interesting how oftentimes, a lot of times, it is also coinciding with, let's like, there's women that commented on our video last week that talked about guy leaving shit stains on their bed sheets, right?
That would not put anyone in the mood, I would assume.
Do you think
Yeah.
maybe cleanliness could play a part? Could it be like that, if you, or if you are a guy like this, where she is cleaning your house,
Yeah.
cooking you food, doing your laundry, if you have children together, then also
Yeah.
doing that, plus likely also having a job. Do you think she might be at the end of the night just fucking exhausted
Yeah.
from that? Or like, why doesn't she make herself look pretty anymore?
Eh.
Or why doesn't she like do her makeup
And you
anymore?
do
What?
what? And you do
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
And it's just like, it's always been baffling to me. I want to tread lightly here, but
Hmm.
it's always been baffling to me, like people who aren't turned off by their partner not being interested.
Hmm.
Like it's almost like their wants, needs, and desires don't play a
Hmm.
factor.
Hmm.
Like I want this and you don't want to do that. So how do I get what I want? It's like if your
Hmm.
partner is not interested, I mean, one, obviously that's a no then, but it's also
Hmm.
like, don't you care? Like, doesn't it matter
Hmm.
to you? Like, I would, that would be immediate. If like my partner's not interested, then I would not be interested. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, it's
No,
crazy to me
100%.
that you wouldn't then be like, oh, oop, like, what can I do better?
Hmm.
Instead of like, oh, she's denying me. Like, again, you have to, like, ladies, or anyone who's with a partner who ends
Hmm.
up with a toxic male partner who subscribes to this misogynistic style of beliefs. Okay, that could be a lot of different people.
Hmm.
If they're mad because you won't sleep with them, then they already have the expectation that your body is theirs. They
Hmm.
already believe, because they believe you're denying them something, which means they
Hmm.
believe should have access to it, right? That is
Hmm.
such a toxic and disgusting belief. Nobody has ownership over anybody's bodies. And
Hmm.
like we play it off like it's this totally normal thing. And it's not.
Hmm.
That's not okay. That's not normal. Like men should
Hmm.
not think they have the right to your body and they should not be pressuring you. And there is no reason on earth that you should ever have to do something you don't want to do. Period.
Hmm.
And if you feel a man pressuring you or starting to use any of this ideology, then understand there's an underlying misogynistic belief.
Mhm.
Period.
Mhm.
Please, please. I mean, as someone, I have hook, line, and sinker believed that before with an abusive
Mhm.
partner. It's very easy and it's so societally accepted to like think, oh yeah, yeah, okay. But it's not true. It's not true. If a man has desires, there's plenty of ways he can deal with that. The answer is never for you to do something you're not comfortable with or don't want to do. Period. I don't even care. I don't care if you just don't want to. Literally, you could literally just be like, nope, that's it. I
Mhm.
don't. You don't need a reason. You don't need anything. It's just your body. Like it's your body, and you get to decide how someone interacts with it. And
Mhm.
anyone who says different is probably a misogynist.
Mhm.
So, anyway, soapbox. That was mine.
All right.
Should we keep going?
Let's do it. We got number 5 on the last
Sorry,
one.
you knew that was going to make me mad.
Yeah, that's I read it. I was like, let's make sure we preface that one. All right, so number
Reagan's going to
5.
fight. Okay.
This is also like this one's not as but you'll yeah, we'll see. Let's see where this goes. Number 5. Man should never have to ask for peace and quiet. We've been fighting and dealing with the world all day. The last thing we want to do is come home and argue and fight with our women. Ladies, men are very simple. Keep our bellies full, keep our balls empty, and be quiet.
It's the same thing.
Hmm.
Who's writing this book? There's a guy saying
There's a
this.
memo going out to
Yeah.
all these.
They're just in a group chat. Um, wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
you know what? That fucking pisses me off.
yeah.
If I
That's
cuss on this one? I can cuss on this one. I
yeah,
cuss on both of them, I think.
yeah.
Because it's this
I
idea.
marked the little explicit thing on our
I do
thing every
too.
time.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. It's the idea, like it's literally a man's world in this case, right?
Hmm.
They're
Hmm.
so these misogynistic men, right? They're so
Right.
self-centered. It's like I've had a hard day. I need peace and quiet. My needs, my wants are more important than anything else. And it's like, hey, do you think maybe your partner has had a bad day? Do you
Hmm.
think maybe your need for quiet doesn't supersede her needs for whatever, like communication? Why do you
Hmm.
think people date? Do you think
Hmm.
it's because they want to cook for you, clean for you, have sex with you, and not speak to you?
Hmm.
What does she get out of it? If she's doing all the work and she doesn't even get communication from you.
Yep.
Hmm. It's almost like nothing.
That literally, like, what he has never. There's been no. That's such a good point. I was like, what is her benefit from this relationship? The privilege of having your hand is this isn't like a previous era where you are allowed to then live by being, entering into a
Right.
matrimony with a man.
Access to a bank account, access
Yeah,
to a
like
credit
all
card,
those things. We
land.
have moved on. And that's where I think the biggest disconnect comes from is these guys don't they do realize. I was they don't realize,
Yeah.
but the world has changed for the better
Right.
in some important ways. It's still shitty. There's still horrible things in the world,
Right.
but there have been some pretty dramatic and traumatic, but dramatic changes
Yeah.
that make it so that a woman does not have to put up and become the servant and mommy
Yeah.
to this man that she
Yeah.
is in it. And they're like, well, I don't like that. I want that still. I read about that. I saw that in
Yeah.
a book, right?
Yeah.
That's how my mom was.
Yeah.
Why can't I still have that? Because they don't want to acknowledge the reality of that's not the world we live in, and it shouldn't be the world we live in.
Right. And also, guess what? Mommy was not happy. Mommy was
Right.
miserable nine
And
times out of 10.
that is a key
Mommy
to
had
it.
some repressed anger that she's probably
Hmm.
dealing with to this day, or she's really going to
Hmm.
bury that shit deep
Hmm.
because nobody thrives under that.
Hmm.
Nobody can thrive under that. And, it reminds me like, I don't know. Well, I would assume with what I know about your childhood, like it was so normalized, like, or like with our age, well, probably every generation before us as well, but like with our fathers, like, oh, don't upset dad. It's like don't wake daddy was a game we played, like literally a
Hmm.
game, like it was it was a child's game where you had to go around the game board, but daddy could wake up because God forbid you wake daddy up.
Hmm.
That was such a common thing where it was like we all tiptoed around the emotions of our fathers. Like
Hmm.
we were expected to make life easy. And maybe like with your mom, you could vent, but like the house should be quiet when dad says it needs to be quiet.
Hmm.
And it's built around this idea that the man's the most important and his mood is the most important. And like everyone should cater to the man's mood. Like you should
Hmm.
cater and you should do whatever it takes not to antagonize him because he's the most important. And it's
Hmm.
just like, no change ever has
Mhm.
happened through silence. When you do things to keep the peace, but whose peace were you keeping? That's
Mhm.
the vibe. You kept the
Mhm.
peace of the aggressor. Like, if you have
Mhm.
to have everything perfect for you not to be a raging asshole,
Right.
you're an asshole. And
Mhm.
additionally, if you need a woman, like, what were you doing before?
Mhm.
So it's bullshit. It's bullshit. This idea that like you got to cater to these toxic men and make sure everything's good for them. It's like, yeah, if you weren't there, they would just have to live their lives. Like
Mhm.
they're not doing that to their guy friends. They're not being raging
Mhm.
assholes to their guy friends. Like this is all predicated on the idea that you should bear the burden of their emotions and the tasks and the chores, and they feel entitled to take it out on you. Again, it sets up a system in which a man can treat you like shit.
A great example of my own father. So my mom left my father when she was pregnant with me. So
Yeah.
luckily I didn't have
Yeah.
as much of his influence on me, which you could probably tell. But hopefully you could tell. Like,
Yeah.
please tell me you don't see him in me.
Please tell me you could
But
tell.
on like Christmas, and it's something I've only noticed now that I'm older. My father would get literally twice as many gifts as anybody else, including the kids,
Really?
because if he didn't get what a good enough surplus of gifts, he would throw a tantrum and go to his room. Like he would just be furious that he didn't get the things he wanted, and he would just go to his room upset, and we'd just spend the rest of Christmas Eve, alone, or with the rest of the family.
That, first of all, I'm so sorry. That's horrifying. I'm so sorry for your mom. But also that is so often the case, and that's the thing, right? Because it's this idea of like there are so many women that even know it's ridiculous. They
Hmm.
even know because, but it's like, but it's not worth it. Like I know
Hmm.
if I don't do what he says, like they make sure to show you what will happen if you don't do what they want. Like it's like,
Hmm.
okay, you cannot cook me dinner, but I'm gonna make your life a living hell. I'm
Hmm.
gonna make you fucking miserable.
Hmm.
So you can play my game or you can be miserable. And again, a lot of these women were stuck in these relationships, right?
Hmm.
But now we're getting to a point where women do have more access and hopefully our eyes open, whereas before there was things at play that they had to deal with it. You know, I'm not judging any
Hmm.
woman that's at all. Like anyone who's had to do that. If anything, I empathize with you. Um, but it's now like our eyes are open, or a lot of women eyes are open. It's like, no, I'm not entering into it that
Hmm.
way. Like you're upfront telling me what you like.
Hmm.
A lot of women get tricked into that, right? Like they have this nice guy and then he turns out to be a jerk. And now men are like, no, we're telling you up front, this is what we expect. Like, no,
Hmm.
no, dude, no woman's gonna agree to that.
Hmm.
Ugh. Ugh, ugh. You know, I've experienced parts of that and I definitely dated people like that. And it was like this idea of like, oh, I just gotta make sure I don't do anything wrong. I'd
Hmm.
hate to upset him. It's like how did we get to that place where it was so societally accepted that
Hmm.
men could be like little ticking time bombs?
Hmm.
And then when they lashed out, whose fault is it? Whose fault did you think it was?
Right.
The yours or your you know your family's. I recently made a post. It was the guy in the car. The guy in the car screaming. Everybody has lots of thoughts on that. And this woman,
We'll have to put a clip into
yeah,
the podcast of him screaming, just so everyone knows exactly what we're talking
you
about.
could go to either of our pages because we both,
Yeah.
yeah, go either of our TikToks. You can see this video. But this person said to me that they agreed with my breakdown of why this man is bad and that he is bad, but they didn't like my tone essentially and said, I'm causing more harm than good. That by calling this behavior out, I could be inciting some type of violence or bad thing to happen to women. And I mean, this person was really going at me. They even said like, "Oh, sugar. Oh, sweetie." Like in the
Hmm.
response to me, which is just nasty. I'm like, if you're using the language of a misogynist, I already know you're in the wrong.
Right.
Um, because again they're trying to make you feel bad by like talking to you like a woman. I don't know.
Hmm.
But it was just like silence has never helped me.
Mm-mm.
I have stayed
Mm-mm.
silent in relationships like that so many times, and I am in a position now where I know that it's bullshit,
Mhm.
and I didn't have someone tell me that. When I
Mhm.
was in that, it was very common. And
Mhm.
maybe somebody would be like, "Ooh, that was a little rough," but not like, you know, someone, there was less communication and less of a uh back and forth going on, like, hey, like, this is unacceptable from men. It's not okay
Mhm.
that they treat you this way. It's not okay to be talked to like that. Um, and I wish somebody would have. I wish I would have seen, I try to create content I wish I would have seen.
Mhm.
And it's just this crazy idea of like, you are never the problem by calling out bad behavior.
Right.
The bad behavior is the problem. And even if
Right.
something goes wrong, it was never your, like, if a guy is only going to be like a good dude if you don't ever call him out, then he's not a good
Mhm.
dude, period.
Right.
And so like we need to call out bad behavior because that's what creates change. Catering to bad behavior has never helped anything aside from maybe in the
Mhm.
moment safety, like, of course.
Right. Right. Well, and that's the thing. Your video is not causing a guy to see it and go home and commit violence, right?
Yeah,
Right. Or
yeah,
hopefully, and
hopefully, yeah,
if that did, that has nothing to do with your video, right? That is
right,
there. That is 100. Once again, it is not your fault for someone else doing something horrible,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But also the it goes back to the discussion of though the importance of seeing strong women, or strong people in general, but strong women speaking up against men doing these things. Like
Hmm.
with Drew Afualo is a great example where the amount of I've had a lot of conversations like where with people offline and about and just
Hmm.
in my comment sections where they're like, well, I like her content because she says the things that I know I can't say because out of
100%.
fear. And so it's like it's nice to see somebody strong and brave and proud that is able to match the energy of the people that because that's what she's doing. She's
Yeah,
not creating
no,
drama.
she's speaking their language.
And it's like, how dare you do the exact thing I was doing to women in my video and say that back to me? But there, because the reality is, like you said, safety wise, there are many individuals that are not in a position where they can speak out or say
Yeah,
something for their own safety. And so these videos can often be a very cathartic thing to hear someone and say something and remind them that they are not crazy
yeah,
for thinking that that is wrong or for feeling bad about something, knowing that there's somebody else out there that is validating that that is not okay for a guy to treat you this way. That's not
right.
okay for a person to lower you into nothing more than a servant, right? Or to
Truly.
supplicant this person. That hearing that is often, sometimes, and many times can be the first step to them actually getting out of that bad
Hmm.
situation, because it does give them that validation that they're not, because they can, not only will their partner gaslight them into thinking that this is all you can ever get, but they'll gaslight themselves. And that's not a
Yeah,
sign of, that's not a negative thing for them. That's a survival mechanism, because sometimes you have to convince yourself that this is the only way to avoid, doing something really bad to yourself or to somebody else. And so I think the videos, people, the guys that get angry about it, or even some there are women that also will get
oh
pass
yeah.
on certain toxic things that will reinforce
Hmm.
these patriarchal norms, um are saying them because, like, well, this isn't going to serve men, this isn't helping men, this content isn't, so it has no value because it's
Right,
not doing something for men. There's other value that exists that is
right.
not just simply men, right? And that's the trap we
It's
fall
it's
into.
almost the whole point
Right.
is that we're not, it's because people cannot comprehend a world in
Hmm.
which men are not centered,
Hmm.
especially men on the internet.
Hmm.
And that's what this person online was saying to me. They were like, this is not going to make them change. And I'm like, I'm not
Hmm.
trying to make them change.
Hmm.
I don't believe I can make toxic men change because the only person that can make anybody change is themselves.
Hmm.
If you make a change in your life, it's because you are actively choosing to do so, right? It's active. There, like, you can influence maybe, and I hope I do. I hope, if some toxic
Right.
man saw my video and it made a positive change, that's awesome. That's not really who I'm talking to
Hmm.
because I don't expect to. I'm trying to help other people. I'm trying to help people who are influenced by this, or, men who understand what's going on and want to educate themselves or want to support women. Those are the people I'm talking to. And, like, predominantly, I would say I'm probably talking to women and non-binary and trans folks
Hmm.
who are experiencing this, right? In their lives, and I'm trying to help them. And so this idea of like, well, a guy's not going to like, I don't think they will. I
Hmm.
think they'll hate it. And
Hmm.
you would not believe, well, maybe, but the DMs I get and the constant comments from men attacking everything under the sun. But
Right.
again, I don't know these men, and I fear for the people in their real lives, because this is how they attack a person on the internet. My God, what are they doing in real
Right.
life? But at least if I'm doing it, these randos are attacking me versus in their real life. And I guess you just hope somebody hears something that can help them make a positive change in their life. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna upset men. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
again, if you get upset by me saying women should have rights or critiquing toxic behavior for men,
Mm-hmm.
then you're identifying with toxic
Mm-hmm.
men. And that's something you should reflect on. Why are you identifying with the toxic person versus the person who's being victimized?
Mm-hmm. And I will say, as someone, while I never got to like the full toxic level, there are still many of these beliefs that I did internalize and think were the correct ways
Sure.
when I was a younger man. Part of deconstructing that and unlearning that and becoming a better person was hearing that and getting defensive, right? Because I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
bad person, right? And that sometimes that anger is the first step before, if you're a good person, before finally thinking about it, reflecting on it, right? But it's okay to feel defensive at first. What's
Mm-hmm.
not okay is then doubling down on it and
Right.
refusing to acknowledge or change, simply because that's more difficult than continuing to do things the same. And also admitting that you may have been part of the problem is
Mm-hmm.
also a very difficult step. But sometimes anger can be the first part of that. So it's not always a bad thing. If you're making a bunch of guys angry, that doesn't necessarily mean that none of them are changing. They're just
Sure.
also the ones that are changing and reflecting and hearing about it aren't the ones in your comment section yelling
Right.
at you because
Harassing me.
they're
Yeah.
going offline and thinking about it.
Yeah.
They're actually doing, probably making some change.
Yeah. And I've had good dialogue with men before who were
Hmm.
like, wait, I don't get that. Or
Hmm.
like, why is that bad? And I'm like, I'm happy to talk to you about that. But
Right.
it's the same thing as like, in therapy, when your therapist brings up something and you're like, no, it's not
Hmm.
that. You feel that intensity. A lot of times it is true.
Hmm.
It's this, when something's really ingrained in you and has been a part of you, it's very hard to accept that. And your
Hmm.
body and your emotions, like, you will have sometimes an intense reaction to accepting that there's something wrong, particularly if it's living in the land of like good or bad,
Right.
which a lot of people online see black and white,
Hmm.
and so if you say, this is a toxic behavior, and they exhibit that behavior, they say, oh, you think I'm bad.
Hmm.
It's like, well, I think that specific toxic behavior is one you
Right.
shouldn't do. I don't know you. Like, I don't know
Hmm.
anything about you, but it's opening your eyes to, it's okay if there's an intensity. I mean, and it can even be like the women in the comment section who maybe they're with someone who is doing some of those things, and they're like, oh,
Hmm.
well, that's not
Yeah.
bad, or
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
my, my boyfriend's not bad. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, I don't know if he is or isn't, but this behavior is bad, and if
Hmm.
he's exhibiting it, you might want to reflect on that. It's not bad to have intense feelings, but it's
Hmm.
important to look at why it was so intense,
Hmm.
because something's going on for you. It does get heated internally, and you just need to unpack why did that
Hmm.
feel, why did you feel so strongly about that? And usually there's some understanding in there,
Hmm.
for if you're willing to unpack versus like F you and like
Right.
double down. So
Right.
yeah, that's my thought. That's
All
my
right.
thought on that.
Any final thoughts on the
Um,
episode?
I hate everything he said. I hate everything it stands for. And I hope any person listening who dates men knows that it's bullshit, and that if your partner is requesting this of you, then he's probably misogynistic, because these are deeply misogynistic beliefs. That those are very to the core of a person, because it's a mindset, right? It's not like one thing; it's across the
Hmm.
board. So if you see one of these red flags, there might be other red flags. So recognizing when a man talks to you in that way, that he might be a misogynist, and that's something to pay attention to. You don't want to end up with a guy like this, because again, he doesn't think he's wrong. He
Hmm.
doesn't think he's being an asshole.
Hmm.
right? I think there are men who would be an asshole to be an asshole, like do my laundry, like on purpose, right? But
Hmm.
he thinks this is the natural order of things. He
Hmm.
should be able to do this. And if you push back, you're the problem. And that's even worse.
Hmm.
That's even more of a problem. If he feels entitlement is so much worse than just like, oh, I'm choosing to be, because it's not worse than it, but it is harder to unpack and deal with.
Right.
So if you hear that shit, like it's not just a traditional person, right? It's somebody who's misogynistic, and you should be careful.
And if any guys managed to get this far into this episode and hearing me right now, keep making these videos and put them on blast so that people know what the hell they're getting into. Put this on your Tinder profile. Put it everywhere. If this is what
Yeah.
you truly believe and you think we are wrong, make it as public as humanly possible. Do not let someone accidentally fall into this relationship and find out this on the back end.
You know what? I've said that so many times. I'm like, if you're about this, and this goes for anything,
Hmm.
any horrible belief. But yeah, if you're homophobic, if you're
Yeah.
whatever, like if you're about that life, then be about that life. Then put it
Hmm.
out there, talk about it,
Hmm.
make it clear. If you are so proud of it,
Hmm.
then don't let
Own
someone
it.
stumble
Just own
upon
it.
it. Then own it.
Just
And then
do it.
guess you'll
Yeah.
get a reaction. And if you
Hmm.
don't put it out there because you know you're going to get a reaction, then you inherently are being deceptive because you're
Hmm.
hiding it. Like, be about it. I wish people would be about it. Like, don't harass people, but
Hmm.
like, be clear.
No,
Like,
but and it's so. This is. I'm gonna go on another tangent. I know we're
do
ending right
it.
now, but it's like when you see this with like racism and transphobia and things. Well, I'm not transphobic. How dare you call me transphobic?
Right.
I just don't think trans people have the right to exist.
I
So
just don't think they should have
how
a bathroom.
yeah, how do you not just be this terrible person just because you don't like the title? Why don't you like the title? It describes you, right?
Right, right, right.
You know,
Sorry.
I just don't, I'm not racist. I just don't believe black people and white people should marry. That's who you are. That's your title. That's your title. That is you, right? Own it.
You don't have the right to hide it. That's my opinion.
That's exactly it. Hmm.
I've been in relationships. We've talked about this before.
Hmm.
I've literally have been in like year long close tight knit friendships
Hmm.
where someone has revealed, 7 years down the line that they're
Hmm.
homophobic and they don't
Hmm.
think I should get married. Guess what? You don't have the right to do that to me. You
Right.
got to tell me that shit up front. And I get to choose whether I want to be your friend. You can choose to be my
Hmm.
friend despite your prejudice. That's
Hmm.
that's on you. Like if that's fine. There's nothing like if you're choosing to look past something, great.
Hmm.
But you don't have the right to not tell me.
No.
You don't have the right to have me become close with you and tell you things I would never tell you if I
Hmm.
knew your belief system.
If you're
That's
gonna
not
harbor these
fair.
beliefs, you give up the right to
Yeah,
to my friendship. And if you really believe those things, if you really want my friendship, then you need to work on that. But and
right.
maybe we'll change things in the future. But you're absolutely right.
And people do change their belief systems.
Hmm.
Like in my
Hmm.
life, I have had people who changed their belief systems,
Hmm.
particularly about me being gay, right? Like they had to rethink that. It's like you just have to be transparent
Hmm.
because it's not a kindness to hide that from someone. Like
Hmm.
if you're a misogynist, like if you expect that of your partner, it's not kind of you to hide that from them, like, or try to work it in later. Like, you have to be upfront. Like, and again, it's always people who are so about it, but they want to
Hmm.
hide it. I'm like, well, which is it? They'll post these things and make these videos and be so like
Hmm.
aggressive and this is the way I am. And then you call them on it, any repercussion
Whoa,
or
whoa, whoa,
even
whoa,
labeling
whoa.
it. Yeah, they'll be
Hmm.
like, what? I'm not that. It's like, you can't
Hmm.
be both.
You're just as bad as me for calling me that.
Right. You identified my behavior. How dare you?
Ah,
Oh, but truly, it's like
equal.
you got to be out there. And also like everybody
Hmm.
ask questions. Ask
Hmm.
questions of people because I would think as an out gay woman, a homophobic person or a person who does not think I should have the same rights as them would not want to be an ingrained enmeshed friendship with me for so many
Hmm.
years. Right? You would think, "Oh,
You
that would
would
not
think.
happen." But it did.
Yeah.
And I never asked because I
Mm-mm.
assumed. Ask people. Like and I've said this also with like when you get with a man, like when a guy says he wants to be a dad, ask him questions. What does that mean to
Hmm.
you? What is a dad to you?
Hmm.
Does that mean you'll get up in the middle of the night? Does that mean you'll do less of your hobbies to help me? What do you
Hmm.
think the workload should be as a parent? Because you'd be shocked how
Hmm.
many dads are like, "Oh, like 90-10.
Yeah.
I do a little bit of parenting."
I want to gift you my seed.
Ew. Oh,
That's what I mean. You're welcome.
I want the label and the 5 minutes of work.
Yeah, I want 5 minutes. Come on. That's
3.
yeah.
I can't commit to 5. But truly, it's just like, we're at a point where like ask clarifying questions. And I do that just this is a general note, like just for example, you and I are very anxious people. I assume things all the time with people, like they're mad at me or they said this thing, because of whatever made up reason I've come up with, they secretly hate me, like whatever. And I've been working on it in therapy is like ask the question, clarify, don't live in the gray, don't let people live in the gray, don't live in the gray yourself. It's like, what did you mean by that?
Right.
And that can be also if someone says a veiled whatever statement, what do you mean by that? Just don't accept gray, like get answers. Like life is so much easier with understanding. And if someone's against you in some way or against another group of people, you probably want to know that. So ask questions. Don't assume, because it really does make an ass out of you and me. And it has gotten me so many times because I'm like, this person's really nice to me. How could they be? It's like people compartmentalize like you would not believe. So just or really guys will pretend they're really good dudes and then they'll be misogynist, and they won't, they will see those as not conflicting because he believes he's better than you. Right. So ask questions. That's my thoughts. Thumbs up.
I love it.
Boom. And you? And you?
I that was a continuation of my thought. I was the one that said guys should keep on saying bad things.
So it was your thought. Yes, you gave your thoughts. Yes. I just talked for 84 years, so I want to make sure you were still here, still present.
Thanks for overtaking my thoughts and making it about you.
Oh no, I've centered myself.
Poor little Chesko here has such a hard life. Thanks for listening, everybody. I love you. I did it. I said it again.
We both love you. Both parents love you. Okay.
I love you more.
Because daddy's mood is more important, and so are his emotions.
It's true. I'm glad that's the moral of this episode.
Oh God. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.